Are you thinking about buying a new home here in West Michigan and maybe can't decide on a used home versus new construction? Well, today we are going to break down the pros and cons in order to help people out there make the best decision on what's right for them. I'm Realtor Nick Belmore, and I service the West Michigan area, and I specialize in helping buyers find the right homes for them and helping sellers make the transition into the home that fits them best in this stage of life. Let's take a quick minute and let's dive into the pros and cons of new construction and residential resale homes. Let's start with new construction. Let's start with the pros. You know, there's a couple of different things, and I will say this, maybe new construction isn't right for everybody, but a couple of the big pros that we have to pay attention to when it comes to new construction, well, number one is definitely customization. One of the big pros about new construction is really the ability to get what you want and the way you want it in a home. So that's one of the great things, knowing that, hey, this is kind of my dream home. This is the color scheme I want. This is the type of countertops. These are the type of cabinets. When we start to look at some of the other stuff, we might have to kind of take what we get when it comes to design, when it comes to features and benefits, ultimately even when it comes to the picks for trim work, for the fireplace mantle, even the color of the siding. Customization is one of those things that can really just take a home and truly make it feel like yours or your dream home. Next on my list for pros, and I think this one's kind of obvious, but maybe we don't even talk about it enough, there is a lower maintenance cost when everything is brand new. I can tell you this, at least for me, in my older home, I just put a new furnace on, I just put a new roof on it a couple of years ago, and that was $15,000 in order to have my old roof torn off and the new roof put on. So this is one of the big benefits, that a lot of our stuff at this stage is really at the beginning of its useful life expectancy. A lot of the roofs in new construction are going to be 30 to 35 year roofs. Obviously the same thing when it comes to furnace, and that's one of the bigger expenses. Sometimes in older homes, the foundation might need some attention, might need some repair. All of these are big ticket items that really aren't a concern when it comes to new construction homes. This is a big one, and I've talked about this next one a few different times in some of our videos: energy efficiency. And I'm telling you, at least for me, my home was built in 1954, and this is probably one of the biggest pros that I do see when it comes to new construction. New construction measures a good chunk of energy efficiency, and especially air leakage, by something of what's called a HERS test. And what they're going to do is they're going to seal that home up, and they actually put it under some pressure, some negative pressure, so they can tell, is it holding pressure or is there a place where air might be leaking out? Efficiency in heating and cooling is one of the biggest costs that a homeowner can face. And knowing that you have the most modern insulation, knowing that those windows are newer, and if you have older used aluminum windows, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now, knowing that the insulation in the attic is right where it's supposed to be versus maybe all matted down and crushed down, or in some cases not existing at all, especially if your home was built before 1920 and you have not retrofitted new insulation into it. There's a great chance that you might have stuffed newspaper in there, or even worse, no insulation at all. So there's no question energy efficiency is a big one. One more thing that honestly plays into this with new construction is the efficiency of today's modern furnaces, especially if your furnace is 20 or 25 years old. I can tell you in one of my homes, the furnace was a Luxair. It worked just fine, but it was built in 1978, same year I was born. So when you're dealing with a furnace that's approaching 50, it's true. If you're dealing with a furnace like that, you're not getting near the energy efficiency that you would with a 95 plus, or even some of these ultra efficient modern furnaces. And that can make a big difference in your energy use. Now, Now, combine that with modern insulation, and there really is a big pro with some of these new construction homes. Next one really kind of ties into the first one we talked about. Builder warranties are a big one, and I know some of the builders here locally, they offer a bumper-to-bumper warranty for the first year and a half on the homes. I know some of them will just go with the basic state of Michigan and the basic coverage that's mandated for these builders, but even still, it's guaranteeing your structure, it's guaranteeing the foundation, it's guaranteeing all these different things. Plus, if there's a manufacturer's warranty, and a lot of the materials that today's builders are using in their homes absolutely do carry a manufacturer's warranty, you can be covered for a long time on some of the components of your home. Having that peace of mind can absolutely go a long way. Last but not least, one of the big pros today, a lot of our new construction doesn't have a bidding war process going with it. We actually had a used home. One of my clients made an offer. There was 13 offers. It went $45,000 over the list price. Is everything in a bidding war like it used to be? No, it's not, but I can promise you this, the homes that offer the best value today are absolutely still in a bidding war. And that's one of the things that we rarely run into when it comes to new construction. One of the things I love about dealing with our local builders is a lot of them aren't trying to play buyers against each other. Why? Because they'll just build another house for that other buyer too. So not being in bidding wars, not seeing that price rise up, not being in that situation where you're up against all these other buyers, it's absolutely a big pro for a lot of our buyers out there. Let's take a second now, and I do want to start to take a look at the pros of used houses as well, right? I want to compare apples to apples. I want to kind of compare both. One of the big pros for used houses, and this is actually something that I hear about from a fair amount of my buyers, it's probably one of the big reasons that we start to see people push away from new construction. They're interested in established neighborhoods. They're interested in the mature trees that go along with it, with having a lot of other families move in, with not dealing with some of the construction traffic, like those concrete trucks rolling down the road to go ahead and pour a new foundation for the next house going in. Another one, when we start to get into it, that a lot of people talk about, for those of you that might be experiencing new construction, you know they don't pour the final, they don't lay the final level of asphalt until the sub is completely done. So you will typically see a 3/4 of an inch raise in the curbs. You often see the same type of raise in exposure for the manhole covers. And why? Because they know construction traffic is coming down that road, and they want to put that final layer on at the end. It gives it that nice clean look. Of course, it looks like it's a brand new road as people come through, and that's definitely a factor people are looking at. Another one, and quite honestly, this was without a doubt the determining factor personally for me in new construction versus used homes. We do see a lot larger lots oftentimes in some of our used homes versus new construction. Why? Because the builder is doing the math, and they understand that with the smaller lots, they can fit more homes on the 30, 40, 100 acres that they've purchased and started to develop. Me personally, when I bought, acreage was one of the primary factors, and we have about 10 1/4 acres for my house. And the truth is this, it's going to be a lot different in new construction to have that size a lot. You're not going to find it in a basic subdivision. So that's without a doubt one of the pros for me when we start to look at used homes, is just really a couple things. Obviously, the variety of homes that you start to see in a neighborhood. I will say this to our builders today, love you guys, but in some of your subs, all the models look the same, even when there's different models. And some of you guys are focused on 4 or 5 models. Listen, I get efficiency, but that's definitely one of the things that draws some of our buyers to the older neighborhood. Diversity in model and diversity in lot sizes is definitely a big plus. Of course, I still love the mature trees, but that's definitely a piece of it. Next one on the pros list when it comes to our residential resale, our used homes, it's going to be move-in time. For the most part, there can be an instant move-in, or sometimes sellers need 30 days to get out and get the new buyer in. But when you're doing a new custom home, we're typically 9 months to move in with a lot of our builders. Even if we're purchasing a spec home that's in specific phases of construction, a lot of my buyers have had to wait 3-4 months for the home to get done and to get the final certificate of occupancy. So if moving in quickly is a priority to you as a buyer, well, this is definitely one of the pros when it comes to our used homes. Next, this is a big one for everyone: pricing. No doubt that you will get a little bit more for your money when it comes to our used homes. Why? Well, because construction materials have been at a high for quite some time. Now, not as high as they were 18 months ago when they absolutely peaked as we went through that crazy time of $56 and $75 sheets of plywood. But there's no question that you are getting a little bit more for your money when we start to look at those used homes. And quite honestly, sometimes they need a little bit more elbow grease and they might need a little bit more of that personal touch. But if you're looking for value, if you're looking for the best deal, then it's probably going to be found in an existing neighborhood versus a brand new subdivision. And last but not least, it's the fully developed infrastructure. When it comes to already having the parks, when it comes to those mature trees, when it comes to all the sidewalks being done and connected, all the landscaping, all the stuff into the sub, that's a pro for some of our used homes, no doubt about it. Now, let's get into the negative side. Let's take a look. Couple of the cons when it comes to new construction. Number one, this is definitely one of them, higher upfront costs. Our builders out here, they don't have to negotiate for the most part. The price is the price. And while that's a pro when it comes to no bidding wars, it can be a little bit of a con if you're looking to do some negotiation or even get a portion of your closing costs paid for. The builders are pretty much set, and quite honestly, I see why. If the builders start discounting their homes, it starts to affect the appraised value if you start to see home prices not selling the same. If one sold for $475,000 last month and then one sells for $465,000, the truth is that builder hurt the entire neighborhood when it comes to setting those comps at that stage. So I see why they do it, but it could be one of the cons for new construction for a lot of people. The next con I want to look at, and I touched on this a tiny bit earlier, it's really about limited options, right? So many of our builders, you're putting out the same 4 to 5 homes in the subdivisions, and I get why they do that. For a lot of them, it comes into efficiency, but it's 100% not the way to get the most choice, to get the most variety. And I'm curious for you guys, what do you guys think of new construction at this stage? Is the limited amount of models a downside for you, or is it something that, you guys might be okay with? Hey, I don't mind if it looks like the neighbor's house as long as I have different color siding or different type of trim, those type of accents. I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the feelings out there for you guys? Cons again, that longer wait time. Right? You might end up in a situation where you have to wait up to 9 months. And I will tell this, even with some of the super custom, especially if it's on your own lot versus in the sub, you could be looking at a lag time of 12 to even 14 months on some of our custom builds out there. So if you need to get in right away, or if you might be a little bit concerned about carrying 2 loans, right? Even a construction loan is typically looking at interest-only payments over that 12 to 14-month time. That could be a con for some of our buyers out there when it comes to new construction. Cons again, a little bit less character, some of those smaller lots out there. No question, the developer needs to fit as many lots onto their chunk of land if they want to maximize profits. And of course, it's a battle out there. So I know a lot of those developers are trying to get as many homes jammed in as possible. For some people, it's a plus. They don't want to go ahead and mow. They don't want to deal with some of that stuff, but for a lot of people, it's definitely going to be a con in the new construction category. Last but not least, upgrades. We know this when we deal with the builders, the base price is the base price, and typically there's a fair amount of heft in those base base prices today. Why? Because we know housing values have been steadily pushing up here for years in West Michigan. And if you want to get into that customization, if you want to upgrade the countertop, if you're looking for a different type of floor, if you're looking at upgraded trim or handrails versus the half walls, or adding a more intricate mantle to the fireplace versus some of the basic things that they do out there, it's an upgrade. And there can get to be a point where the upgrades really start to outshift the value. This is one of the great things. A lot of your builders, they've been through this, so they'll kind of warn you when the upgrades get up there that we could be pushing out of appraised value the more upgrades we add. I can tell you my uncle who bought new construction ended up getting quoted $20,000 to put a new deck on the back. And I'm not talking about this amazing multi-tiered deck with the clear plastic panels and the whole thing. I'm talking about a basic 10 by 12 deck on the back of the house. So those are some of the things that can get a little bit crazy when we start to add those upgrades, and it can start to push a house out of budget very quickly. Where it's in a used home, a lot of that stuff could be done. Obviously, in this case, we talked about the cons with the new construction. What are some of the cons in the used homes? Higher maintenance costs, right out of the gate. If that home like mine was built in the 50s, guess what? That roof that I put on it, it sure wasn't the second roof that went on that house. So we could be looking at a 10, 12, 15-year-old roof, and we know that a new roof might be on the other side of that as it is. Same thing with plumbing. We're more apt to see a leak in the plumbing in a lot of our used homes. Again, if you're looking at a septic system versus city sewer, the useful life of your drain field could be a lot more through. We could be 50, 60% through on a used home versus brand new construction where we know that septic system and that drain field was just put in at that stage. Definitely a big one. Next one, when we start to get into cons of used homes, outdated features. We've all seen those 70s, those 90s kitchens in a used home. Is there anything wrong with them? Do they work? Do they function? Yeah, they do, because they built things very quality back then. But if you want to put the upgrade in, if you're ready to go to those quartz countertops, if you're ready for granite, if you're ready for those beautiful tile backsplashes that we see today, that's going to have a cost to it. And a lot of times those costs can be fairly large. Now we know this too. When a builder's giving out work, it's easier to get those trades to show up for the builder and give them a reasonable cost because they know they're getting another job next time. Today, when the trades are squeezed, then typically the people who are paying the highest prices are getting prioritized by a lot of these remodeling companies. So if aesthetically the house isn't what you want in the moment, that could be a con to the used homes. Now, I will say this, when I started my first home, I bought at 21, I completely remodeled that home. It made more economic sense. Not everybody might have the knowledge to go ahead and be able to remodel their kitchen or remodel their bathroom, and that can absolutely be a con when it comes to used homes. Next on the list, here's the reality, competitive market. I told the story earlier about our buyers in that bidding war, and while not every used home today is in a bidding war, and you can definitely reach out to us if you want to understand the strategies of what can have a discount versus what's in a bidding war. The reality is this, today the best used homes are still in multiple offer situations. So if you're not interested in competing, if you're not interested in seeing those prices getting driven up, and let me tell you, for the buyers out there, I get it. I totally can see where you're coming from on that. I might get sick of that myself if I was in that position. Then the reality is this can be one of the cons of some of our used home inventory. Inspection issues is next on the con list, right? You go through the home, everything looks great. All of a sudden, hey, you know what? There was probably only 4 or 5 years of life left on this roof, or you might be going down and hey, the furnace is functioning, but it's 35 years old. These are all some of the things things that can come up. Now, quite honestly, some of the things are as simple as leaky pipes. Some of the things are coming up are negative grades, stuff like that. In some of these inspections, they're maybe not as big a deal, but they could be, and especially when they start to accumulate. So having to bring it up to speed, having to take care of maybe some of that deferred maintenance can absolutely be considered to be one of the cons when it comes to used homes. Just out of curiosity out there, for any of you guys that have already bought a home, tell me some of the repairs in the comments that you maybe had to make or you had to negotiate at the time of inspection. I can tell you I have negotiated literally thousands of repairs over the past 24 years of selling real estate. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's a battle, but that can absolutely be one of our cons when it comes into used homes. Last but not least on my cons list, and this is one we've talked about, energy efficiency. My home built in 1954, absolutely not as energy efficient. Now, we ended up putting in extra insulation. We ended up having the windows replaced. It helped definitely, without a doubt. However, energy efficiency in these used homes is not even close. My furnace is about 17 years old. It still works great, no need to replace it. But there's no question it is not as energy efficient as the modern furnaces that are out there today. So when it comes to higher utility bills, when it comes to maybe even some of these higher repair bills, they're definitely one that's going in the category of cons when it comes to used homes at this stage. So hopefully this helped you guys to kind of get an idea between the pros and cons when it comes to new construction versus used homes. And please tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. What would you guys prefer? Do you prefer a new home? Do you prefer a used home? I'm genuinely curious to just kind of see the consensus out there, because one of the things I notice with my buyers, boy, there's really two camps, and each one is usually passionate about their view and their opinion when it comes to owning a new house versus owning a used house. Some people would never consider new construction, and quite honestly, some people would never consider living in a home that's been lived in before. So I'm genuinely curious for you guys, what are your thoughts? New homes versus used homes? Leave them out in the comments. And if you got some value out of this video, even if it was nothing more than entertainment, do me a favor, subscribe and like this video, or subscribe to my channel and like this video, so that I'm in the position to make sure that I'm getting the message out to more and more people. It's one of the biggest things that you guys can do to help support the growth and to help me get the message out to more people here in West Michigan. Until the next time, I will see you guys soon.